Well, our keynote speaker today is Dr. Dan Martin, the president of Seattle Pacific University. And we're fortunate to have Dean Ross Stewart accompanying Dr. Martin in support of Diplomacy Day. And before Dean Stewart introduces the president, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about Dean Stewart. So will you step up with me here? Ross Stewart is serving as the interim dean at the School of Business, Government, and Economics at SPU. He was awarded the Faculty Teacher of the Year at SPU back in 2009, and more recently, Dean Stewart was a Fulbright Scholar in Kenya in 2012. He has a multinational educational background spanning New Zealand to the UK, China to Canada, before making Seattle his home. Please join me in welcoming the Seattle Pacific University Dean Ross Stewart.
Thank you very much, Sue. It's a privilege for me to welcome Dr. Dan Martin as our president at Seattle Pacific University. President Martin is in his fourth year of it as the 10th president of Seattle Pacific. He loves living in a global city like Seattle, and he's made quite an impact on our campus. He has overseen several key infrastructure projects. He has been intentional about racially diversifying our Board of Trustees right down through to the student body. He has faced significant issues in the city, like the Deputy Mayor has mentioned. Homelessness is one of his key areas that he's been involved with. And he's also been engaged in a significant strategic planning process since he's come to SPU. And that is one of those, one of the pieces of the strategic planning is global education and internationalizing our campus. And so he has encouraged us to live into the university's global vision of engaging the culture and changing the world. And so on Diplomacy Day, it's a real privilege for me to welcome Dan to talk with you today. So welcome, Dan.
Well, thank you for the introduction, and it is a privilege to be here with you today. It's great to be back with you. I was here a couple of years ago when Father Sundborg, myself, and George Bridges, who was at Whitman at the time, is now at Evergreen, came and talked about higher ed issues in the state of Washington. So it is truly a privilege to be back with you. And it's great to be here with you to launch this first annual Diplomacy Day. I've heard about the Diplomacy Task Force work and certainly the work of David Woodward. And I'm sure, as you know, David, as the president of ACE, is a strong partner with Seattle Pacific University in this area. I'd offer my thanks to David for his work on creating this Diplomacy Day, and I appreciate his many contributions to Seattle Pacific and to the greater Seattle area, and certainly to the Seattle Rotary. Well, this day is about making international and cross-cultural partnerships stronger, extending the aim in some way of Rotary's influence both in this region and around the world. Rotary's mission of advancing and understanding connects globally with an important trend in higher education, the tremendous number of international students that are coming to the United States. According to the U.S. News and World Report, the U.S. hosted more students from abroad last year than ever before. In all, there were 970,000 international undergraduate and graduate students attending U.S. colleges and universities in 2014-2015. 970,000 international students. In 2015, University of Washington enrolled just under 1,400 international students. And at SPU, as Dr. Stewart mentioned, as part of our global initiative, and I hope we allow some time for questions at the end or for Dr. Stewart to come up and tell a little bit more about our Global Initiative Task Force. But we expect our current enrollment to grow from 4% international student representation to just at 10% of our student body. In fact, Father Sundborg and I, in this last year, have been meeting with the community colleges here in Greater Seattle and they have a tremendous number of international students studying on their campuses, and we're exploring ways in which those students may be able to transfer their enrollment to institutions such as SU and SPU. So why is the international student community in the U.S. growing so rapidly? Well, the United States as a whole has a leading higher education brand. 18 out of the top 20 highest-ranked universities are in the United States. 30 out of the next 50 institutions that are highly ranked are in the United States. There's an enormous and unsatisfied demand for higher education in developing economies. And with the changes on the horizon the next 40 years, from moving from a world population of 6 billion to 9 billion, and with economic growth in third world countries expanding and growing, there definitely is a need. And higher education can be that pathway, and it can be that fuel for our society's economic and greater societal growth. In Washington State, we have a particularly large number of students coming from abroad. For that, we can thank our Pacific Rim location. It attracts students that are interested in Seattle, a truly global Seattle, and they're interested in making Seattle their home. They come to us for the vibrant industries that are represented: aerospace, technology, consumer retail. All these industries promise professional opportunities for our international students. Internships, networking, potential employment are making this region a very attractive and desirable location to both learn and then live. So it's clear that our international students are drawn to this region. But you may question whether this explosion of international students is important. Does it contribute to our shared business interests and those broader community interests that we hold? Well, I believe that it does. For this growth reinforces something very big, that education, higher education, has the capacity to build futures for individuals and for community. SPU is a global destination for global thinkers, and education then is the gateway to our city's industries. Our city, as you know, already has an extraordinarily advanced workforce. But to ensure that our employees don't migrate to other cities around the world, we must continue to attract the best minds. Higher education then supplies this root talent for our employers, talent that can then be scaled for our own industry growth. Given the growth in our local economy, clearly this is an important attribute and asset for our Seattle community. Beyond preparing for our success in Seattle's economy, though, higher education also prepares our students for a deeper understanding of culture overseas, or what it means to be a global citizen. This attribute is critically important for cities such as Seattle that intersect and support global economies. Let me unpack a few examples of the role of higher education in this idea of creating global citizens. First, consider the Fulbright Scholars Program, as was mentioned. As you know, at the heart of this program is the intent to increase mutual understanding between those citizens of the U.S. and those around the world. At universities, we prepare and ultimately send students and faculty overseas through the Fulbright program. At SPU, we've had 5 students win the Fulbright Award these last 5 years, and we currently have 2 semifinalists. And of course, faculty like Dr. Ross Stewart in 2012, being a Fulbright scholar himself. These individuals show themselves to be the best and brightest as they interact with leaders from other countries. The impact from these interactions have long-term potential for their own personal growth and development, but also for the greater Seattle community. Higher education institutions around the region have demonstrated a commitment to global engagement. 2 years ago, the Seattle Times reported that Washington colleges lead the nation in Peace Corps volunteers. The UW that year sent 107 graduates into the Peace Corps. in part due to their commitment to both innovation and addressing poverty. Western Washington sent 73 students. In that same year, SPU ranked 14th in the nation for Peace Corps volunteers among universities with a student population of less than 5,000 students. And there also exists a depth and breadth to a regional support program, such as the program that David Woodward leads, ACE, the language institute that offers intensive English language classes. This in turn brings an international flavor to our own campuses and our own classes. ACE, as you heard, is a nonprofit, and it's located just a few blocks from SPU. And during the school year, ACE students get to know our Seattle Pacific students through a concept called Culture Connections. It's a program that matches up SPU student volunteers with ACE students, and it allows the international students to practice their English skills, and it connects our SPU students to capture a glimpse around the world for their own broader developments. Now, as you know, many universities also offer study abroad programs, and SPU is no different. We want our students to become internationally literate and globally aware. At SPU alone, nearly 230 students studied or volunteered last year as a part of our programs. This occurred in 25 different countries. So in addition to traditional study abroad, we offer service opportunities in foreign countries in a variety of disciplines such as nursing, engineering, ministry, business, and other academic endeavors. And there's also an interdisciplinary quality to some of the best international programs out there. Now at SPU, this means that in addition to our Global Development Studies major that's focused on educating and training our students for global enterprise, we integrate global issues into disciplines such as liberal arts, economics, theology, the sciences. We want our students to have a global perspective. We hope this perspective will help them better understand the complexities of our world, as well as our immediate region. Interdisciplinary learning around global issues is subtle, but significant as it multiplies our students' intellect and awareness. I have a great real-life example. Let me tell you the story of Tim Hanstead. Tim was our SPU Alumnus of the Year this last year. Tim is someone who fights for the rights of those that are among the poorest in our world. Tim's a 1985 graduate of SPU, went on then to the University of Washington to complete his studies in law. He's the co-founder and senior advisor of Landesa. Landesa is a Seattle-based nonprofit that works in more than 50 countries to secure land rights for the world's most impoverished. In fact, they won the Hilton Humanitarian Award just this last year. Landesa works to strengthen land rights for the world's poor by developing, monitoring, and implementing land-related laws and programs. In the organization's history, they've worked to secure land rights for more than 115 million people. The interest of Tim's can be traced back to the classroom. SPU's political science classes solidified Tim's focus on social justice, and it introduced him to this concept of land reform. And as Tim travels the world, he meets people face to face, and he learns firsthand what land ownership means for them. For them, it means food, it means income, and it means dignity. He said that many times he hears this quote in a variety of paraphrased ways. I was a nobody, but now I'm a somebody. I'm a landowner and can now hold my head high. It's inspired me for me to think of the many of today's students that are studying in excellent universities across our region. Students that will go on in some way following the footsteps of Tim and many, many others that are solving today's world's greatest needs and most complex issues around our globe. Let me close by saying this. I believe that the international internationalization is a long-term process, and it begins on both a personal level and an institutional level. It's where students are prepared for professional lives, lives that can help them grow in their business acumen, in their chosen vocation, but hopefully a life that challenged them to live in some way a life beyond themselves, in some way a life beyond personal success, to one of greater significance, one that can make a global difference and global impact in our region and around the world. A college campus is a place where tomorrow's entrepreneurs and visionary leaders can wake up to our complex world. This awakening occurs in activities such as internships, classroom experiences, and studying abroad. As Seattle has grown into a global city, SPU wants to partner with you, wants to partner with our region, bringing talented international students to our city and then delivering them to your door and to your front steps. It's part of how our university can live out our vision, as Dr. Stewart mentioned, engage in the culture and change in the world. Thank you.
Please stand for some questions. I'm going to invite Sarah to take a mic and Janelle to take a mic, and Dr. Stewart, if you'll join us as well. This is an opportunity. We've set some extra time aside for some questions. So I'm looking for the first question. Sarah has it. And it's our member, Steve Crane, here to the right.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for that wonderful description of your interdisciplinary approach to global studies and to the outreach that you described to us globally. But I'm interested in asking you if you could tell us a little about your work with homeless and how you have your students involved with that.
Sure, let me just give a brief highlight on that. Coming into the university, as we thought about our motto, our phrase, our vision of engaging the culture and changing the world, we thought what better way to model that for our students than for the institution to bring the resources, the expertise, the passion that we have to bear on some issue in the greater Seattle area that we believe we can make a difference. And there had already been a lot of work and a lot of conversations across campus related to this issue of homelessness and the ways in which we can engage and take our expertise out there and make a difference. We had hosted Tent City 3 previously, so we made the decision to bring Tent City 3 back to campus, so providing an opportunity for us to invite the issue to our campus, to live with those in that community, to better understand the issues that they face, to in some ways incorporate the life of the student body in co-curricular and curricular ways into studying this issue from a variety of disciplines. And so it has exhibited itself from that moment, trying to find its way kind of in a deeper expression through the campus. It is part of our strategic plan, and we try to identify ways in which we can be advocates for this issue, in which we can provide resources, research, and scholarship on this issue to better understand what the needs are, what challenges we face as a community, and what solutions may be out there. So I am grateful for the mayor and Deputy Mayor Kim for inviting us, continuing to invite us in these conversations as a resource for this city. We also partner with Seattle University on this. They have a wonderful program. As you may know, they have a very specific focus on homeless families. And so I know there's a gathering February 18th on their campus that afternoon in partnership with the city where we're sending representatives to engage in this conversation. So it's continuing to unfold, and it finds itself in a variety of ways in terms of service opportunities, but both curricular and co-curricular avenues of engagement for both faculty, staff, and students.
We have a question here from Laura Rehrman.
Thank you very much, Dr. Martin. You asked for a question about your global initiative, so this is that question. And I'm also interested, Dr. Stewart, in how your experience as a Fulbright scholar contributes back to SPU and to our community. Thank you.
Well, actually, given that I'm originally a Kiwi, right? It was a real privilege for me when I became a U.S. citizen and was able to be chosen by the Fulbright Committee to serve in Kenya. So that was a real thrill for me. I mean, how it affects scholars is that you have an opportunity to learn from in kind of a way of cultural humility from another country. I was attached to a university there, teaching in my discipline of accounting. So that was really a wonderful experience. And then as I bring that back to the campus, I'm able to share with students what it means to go out internationally, what global acumen is all about. And that might be from, knowing how to talk English soccer to, discussing a really deep issue like community development. And to do so with a sense of global acumen, global competence, but also in a sense of what we're celebrating today, cultural humility. And so I think those are the characteristics that come back to our campus. And so regarding our global initiative, we're really hitting all the points that Dr. Martin talked about. We're trying to say not all our students can go abroad, but how do we bring internationalization here at home into our campus? And of course, being in a global city like Seattle, that's just a wonderful opportunity. We have so many wonderful touch points. So for us, we are intentional about that. We're a sponsor of Global Washington. We join the World Affairs Council, those kinds of things, and provide those opportunities. But we also go and serve in refugee communities and that kind of thing. So that's what global learning's about. So it's about not only student mobility, inbound and outbound, but it's also about global learning and graduating students of global competence. And then looking at all the structures around that to support that. Thank you.
We have a question in the back here from Faith Enyart.
I always know my old friends when they say Enyart because I've been Ireland since I was for about 22 years. That's a privilege, Sarah. So my question is for Dr. Martin, and I guess I would ask you about the immigration issue between going from college to being permanent residents or in the workforce through the special things that are available in the workforce. But also, just as a question, are we guilty of doing reverse brain drain if we take all the best and brightest and then keep them here?
I'll also let LaRosse handle the first part in terms of the transition from being a student into our community and the process there.
Sure, thanks, Dan. This is a little bit of an issue for the U.S., to be honest. We make it pretty difficult for our international students to come into subsequently into the workforce. Countries like Australia and brothers Canada here make things a lot easier for international students, to be honest. And that is because simply we have a very rigorous system with our SEVA system, sponsored out of the Department of Homeland Security. And, there's good reasons for that. But we do have to hold a balance here to say, how do we bring, when an international student is here, working, say, on what we call optional practical training, which is available to a student once they graduate. But usually that's only for either a 12-month period or a 29-month period, depending on what discipline they're in. And then they have to go through a very rigorous process of getting an H-1B visa and then subsequently a green card, etc. And to do that, they need industry sponsorship. In many other countries, they have a more friendly system where they take the international student, and it's a lot easier for them and for businesses to hire those students. And so we do put a little bit of a hurdle up in front of our industry here in hiring them. We only have certain amounts of H-1B visa allocations and that kind of thing. So it's something that, that we work on in higher ed, and we try to advocate for longer optional practical training opportunities and that kind of thing. But it is a tricky process. So thanks for your question.
On the second part of that, I do believe it's a both and. Probably there is some guilt associated with being a drain in terms of resources from other countries, in terms of their employment and their workforce and some of their great minds and thinkers. On the same hand, I think it's an avenue where we also partner with other countries. So students are attracted to the universities here in the United States, as I mentioned, with universities really providing a first-class education, so there's a natural draw for students who want to come and study in the United States. There's also a variety of international programs where sponsoring countries will sponsor their students to come and study. And so we also partner with a variety of agents around the world where countries underwrite their students to come and study here and then return back to their homeland. In fact, we had a program just this last year with a group of Brazilian students. And was there a particular discipline?
Engineering.
In engineering, where the Brazilian government did underwrite and sponsor those students to come to SPU and study with the anticipation that they would go back. So I think it's a both and, but obviously an issue as well.
Here we have a question here for Bill Smead.
Yeah, Dr. Martin, could you talk a little bit about the connection between what you're doing and your Christian walk and being a Christian college as opposed to being a secular institution?
Sure. Yeah, obviously we're an institution that's sponsored by and affiliated with the Free Methodist Church here in the United States. We've also been, since our beginning, a very ecumenical institution. So even though sponsored by a church, our students do not sign a faith statement, and so among our undergraduate student body, we have over 50 different denominations represented, and then many students who don't express any faith at all in their own personal life. And so it really is a broad ecumenical community. And so even inviting students here from other countries coming into this campus location, there probably is a faith group where they would fit and find a comfort in terms of that expression. We do within our university's ministry program try to provide a breadth of worship experiences that are literally around the world to find this cross-cultural competency even within that context. So it is something that we're conscious of and something that's there and affords a unique aspect for our educational experience that perhaps other campuses don't have.
Bill Center.
I hope you won't mind if I phrase my question in the form of a statement. Stand up, Mauricio. But in response to Faith's question, this handsome gentleman next to me is Mauricio Quevedo. You will all recall that for more than a decade, I was the senior advisor for the Hubert H. Humphrey Fellowship Program at the University of Washington, a program under the Fulbright program. And Mauricio is one of our former fellows. What year were you here, Mauricio?
2011 and 2012.
2011, 2012. He visited us here at Rotary. Mauricio is now the CEO of a software company in San Salvador, El Salvador, that is partnering with businesses right here in Seattle. They sent a total of 4 interns up here for training. They go back to Seattle and they're doing business back and forth. Anyway, so this is a great example of the value that international education adds in ways that's almost invisible. And when we think about diplomas, we think about this highfalutin guys that wear top hats and tails and everything. But these are the diplomats that make a real difference. And thanks for letting me make that statement. And we're proud of Mauricio. He's a great example.
We have a question from Rod Walbaum.
Following up on Faith's question, do you have any sense as to what percentage of college graduates that are coming from international countries end up staying in the United States versus returning to their homelands?
Boy, I don't, to be honest. I suspect it's about around 20, 30%, but I'm not exactly sure. So that'll be my best guess. 20, 30% stay, yes.
We have a question from Alex Mummery.
Hi there, I hope that I have a 2-part question, if that's okay. The first question is, what are the top 3 countries from which we enjoy international students? And the second question is, what is the graduation rate of the international student crowd versus the non-international? Thank you.
That's really a good question. The top 3 countries are China, India, and Korea that come to our country. We're seeing quite just a change at the moment, a kind of a flattening of the Chinese student population and some quite good growth in the Indian population. Korean population's flattening a little bit. So those are the top 3 countries. In terms of retention rates and graduation rates, international students are some of the best. They persist, and they persist in our programs longer, and they graduate on time typically because they're funded from their country back home or from a sponsor somewhere. And so they're usually just tremendous students. And a lot go on to graduate school from undergraduate programs, but of course a lot of students are here to come for our very wonderful graduate education across the country as well.
Thank you both. Thank you, President Martin and Dean Stewart. And now to offer closing remarks for our Diplomacy Day is Ralph Monroe. Ralph, you may not know, is a 39-year Rotarian. He's a past president of this club and a tireless champion for Rotary's efforts to end polio. Ralph is also a longtime member of the Consular Association, having served 5 terms as our state Secretary of State. Ralph, take us home.
Ralph is also an old has-been. We're blessed here in Washington State because no matter what country you go into around the world, you name any one of them, you'll find Washington State products being used every single day, whether it's in the aerospace arena or in technology or perhaps in one of the products we sell like sweet onions or cherries or apples. And all of these products and all of these sales and all of these relationships create jobs for Washington State workers. These people that you've honored here today are the connectors. They are the doors, the ones that open the doors. They are the ones that help us make the contacts. They're the ones that show us the way to build the relationships in business and trade and many other educational and other aspects as well. So I urge you to shake their hand, to thank them, to build a better relationship with them, and to invite them back to the world's finest Rotary Club. This has been a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. It's great to have you back at our podium. And thank all of you for being part of our first annual Diplomacy Day. Everyone's welcome to come to the after party tomorrow. And I want to do a quick shout out to a couple of key program participants, starting with John Hamer. John, will you stand up? He's our totem reporter, and he is going to try to capture all of this in the totem on Friday. And thank you to our Sergeant at Arms, Paul Leashy. Appreciate your support. And also to the Rotary office for all of their help as we made preparations today. So it's a big, small world. Thank you again, all of you, for being part of our Diplomacy Day. We are adjourned.